The next one is a novella. Hi fam and welcome to a new video. Today I am doing a video where I'm going to talk to you about my most anticipated releases of 2021 in the second half of the year, that is from July to December. And if you are wondering, Smriti, yes, you've already made 4 videos talking about your most anticipated releases of 2021. You are not wrong, okay? You are not wrong, but we're at the midpoint of the year, and I think like publishers are just more like forthcoming about books releasing at this point of time for the second half of the year. And I have a list of books that I am very excited about that I want to talk to you about. So yes, I would recommend that you check out this video, but I would also recommend that you check out those videos because they have some really good like releases in that one as well, which has like books that are gonna get released in the second half as well. So yeah, so just give me more views is all I'm saying now. Also, like, they're good books. But yeah, that's what we're gonna do now. I luckily have all the dates for all of the books that are coming out, so I'm going to go according to books released as per date, if that makes sense. Does that make sense? Yes, it does. I just replayed it in my head. The first book is Everyone in This Room Will Someday Be Dead by Emily R. Austen, and this is about Gilda, who's a 20-something-year-old woman who only thinks about death, and she's concerned about that, so she decides to take therapy. So she goes to this church that has a free therapy session, and once she gets there, the father of them mistakes her for the replacement for the recently deceased receptionist, and she's too awkward to kind of like say no, that's wrong. So she just goes with it, and she becomes the replacement for the receptionist who has died. And then her friend, like the receptionist friend, who I think his name is Grace. So Grace's friend keeps writing to her on her email, and this girl Gilda doesn't know how to tell that person that Grace is dead, so she just goes with it and she starts impersonating Grace of sorts. And then they get to know that like maybe Grace didn't die of like the most natural like reasons. So there's like a murder thing involved as well. And I just think that this sounds so interesting because one, I also am sort of like obsessed with the topics of grief and death and all of that sort of stuff, and also just this sounds really interesting and bizarre, and I want to see what happens. The second book is Island Queen by Vanessa Riley, and this book just sounds so good. This is the fictionalized version of a true story that is of Dorothy Kerwin Thomas, who was a free woman of color who rose from slavery to become one of the wealthiest and most powerful landowners in the colonial West Indies. So amazing. So basically we get to know about her life, whose name is, like, they call her Doll, as she rises from the harsh realities of slavery and colonialism by working with the system and leveraging the competing attentions of men in her life. A restless shipping merchant, Joseph Thomas, a wealthy planter hiding a secret, John Cavalret whatever sells, and a roguish naval captain who will later become King William the Fourth of England. So like, what? This sounds really interesting, really cool. I cannot wait to read about this fictionalized version of this real person's life, who rose from slavery and became one of the wealthiest people in the West Indies. That just sounds so inspiring, so amazing, and just like. And the last book of July is The Final Girl Support Club by Grady Hendrix. Now this one just sounds really interesting. So yeah, essentially it is about this group of girls who are the final girls, which are the girls who survived like the end of the massacre, or like after a slasher movie and like there's one person who survived. So they were the one people who survived at the end of like some brutal killings and all of that. But essentially they meet every so often and for group therapy, and discuss how they all like sort of survived that trauma and all of that sort of stuff. But what happens is that one of them goes missing and I think is murdered. So the main protagonist, I think there's a main girl, is trying to figure out what happened and if the others are going to be targeted as well. So I just think that this sounds really good and really interesting, and I cannot wait to read it. And following up on that thriller, in August, there is a book that's going to be coming out called 56 Days by Catherine Ryan Howard. Now, I know that this book comes out in July for the rest of the world, but in India, it comes out in August 17th, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. So this one is a COVID thriller. Essentially, this guy and a girl meet in right before like COVID lockdown starts, and they decide that during the lockdown they're going to quarantine together. But after 56 days, there is the police at the apartment because one of them is dead. So we don't know who is dead, and then we're trying to solve the mystery of how this person dies or what happens, and I'm just really intrigued by that. So yeah, it just sounds really good, and there's that. The next one is also a thriller and is coming out on the same day, and it's called How to Kill Your Best Friend by Lexie, Elliot. And this one is about three best friends, three women who grew up together, who were part of a swim team, and have now grown up. They have some like secrets, etc. But what happens is that in this day, the main girl, like the it girl of the three, is found dead because she drowned. And people, like the two of them, don't believe that she could have actually drowned by accident, and they think that maybe it's something else. But now they have to go to the island where she and her husband used to live for the funeral, but there is a storm and then something happens. I don't know, I just think that it sounds really interesting, and yeah, I'm just intrigued. Alright, moving on to September, which just has so many releases that I am so excited about. So the first one is the second novel by Sophie Cousens called it's called Just Haven't Met You Yet. This Time Next Year was the first book that I read, which I really enjoyed. But Just Haven't Met You Yet is basically about this girl who goes on a holiday but exchanges like her suitcase with someone else. So she has this guy's suitcase now who she's met him, and she thinks that this guy is gorgeous, and this suitcase has like her favorite book and all of that sort of stuff. So she's like, oh my god, this guy is like my dream guy. So she goes out trying to find this guy with the help of another cab guy, and like I think we know where things are going to go, but well, I'm just excited to read it because I think that it will be fun, and I liked the way Sophie Cousens wrote her book. The next book comes out on September 2nd and is by a booktuber herself, and I'm just so excited about this because I love watching this booktuber. I think she's amazing. And this book is called The Flames of Albiyon by Jean Menzies. I'm sorry if I'm not saying your name well. I'm so sorry, but this book just sounds absolutely amazing. It is a sapphic book set in a high fantasy world with dragons, and essentially it's about this girl who has always like sort of trained to be like an academic person, but she by mistake awakens like a dragon egg, so now she has to be the dragon's companion. So she is teamed up with the princess, and then they discover that there's some other things sort of afoot, and they have to help save the kingdom, and like, oh my god, it just sounds so good and so interesting, and I can't wait to read this and support Jean, who is just the most amazing booktuber. So if you haven't seen her or watched any of her videos, please do so, and also this is a new book that she is coming up with. I will actually link you to her describing this book, because like she does a better job of it because she wrote it. So well, the next book is the Sally Rooney book, which is called Beautiful World, Where Are You? And this follows 4 people, and I don't know much more than that. I have like sort of a weird love-hate relationship with Sally Rooney because I think that she writes well. I think that she writes really interesting characters that can be very annoying, but I know those annoying people. So for me, they're not so far off, but I still want to like read her book to see what it's about. So yeah, that's a book that I am interested for, and that's coming out on September 7th. Another book that is coming out on September 7th that I am very excited about is called Never Saw Me Coming by Vera, Kurian, and this is about psychopaths. So So it's about this one girl in college who has always dreamt of killing her childhood friend because she is a psychopath, and she's part of like this study of 7 other people who are also psychopaths, but one of them is murdered. So now what's happened is that she's trying to figure out who has done the murder. Could it be part these psychopaths who she's doing the study with? Are they going to be next? So it's like this weird thing of trying to like save them but also being wary of them, and also she still wants to go ahead with her plan of killing her childhood friend. So I don't know, I'm just really intrigued by this. It just sounds really good, and I can't wait to be back in a psychopath brain for some reason. So alright, the next one is a fantasy book, which, like, I don't know, just sounds really, really interesting. So it's called The Bones of Ruin by Sarah Rowley, and this to me sounded kind of like Hunger Games, but magic, but historical. I don't know if I'm hyping people up with that, but like if you just say that, that sounds amazing, doesn't it? But essentially, it follows this African tightrope dancer in Victorian England called Iris, who cannot die. She's immortal for some reason, and she can't remember her past. But then she is approached by this guy called Adam Temple, who is said to be a mysterious dude from the Enlightenment Committee. And Enlightenment Committee knows that the world is going to like collapse, like we're going into the apocalypse, and only the committee can decide who lives and who doesn't. But for some reason, this committee is also holding like a tournament to like choose a champion or something like that for this apocalypse time. And Adam Temple chooses her and says that if you win, I will tell you about your past, because that is something that she doesn't remember and that's really been troubling her. So yeah, it just sounds really, really interesting, and really, really good, and I can't wait to see what happens. I don't know, I don't know. It sounds great, right? And all of that was just the first week of September. I know, crazy. But in the second week, we have White Smoke by Tiffany D. Jackson, which is coming out in on September 14th. And I'm just really excited about this one. It is being described as haunting of Hill House meets Get Out. So that just sounds really good, and I don't want to read too much more about it, but essentially it's about this girl who moves to a new town, like she is adopted, I think, and this new house that they live in seems to be sort of haunted, and yeah, I'm just like, I don't know, it just sounds really good, and that's all I want to know. That's all I want to know. The next one is called Battle of the Bands, and this is a short story collection, but of stories that connect all together, that are sort of interwoven, and these have like 14 different writers writing these stories. So I just think that this sounds so amazing. This is set in a high school during a Battle of the Bands, so it's gonna have a lot of music, and I just think that it's gonna be really, really interesting, and it has some pretty great authors as well. I will link you down to like the Goodreads or whatever, to like read more about it, because I just think that like it sounds so good and I can't wait. The next is a translation from Japanese to English, and I don't know what it is with like Japan and cats, but this one is called A Cat Who Saved Books by, I can't pronounce the name. I just don't want to pronounce the name because I don't want to butcher it. But I'm just gonna read out like the first paragraph of like what the blurb says. And it says, bookish high school student Rindario is about to close the second-hand shop he inherited from his beloved grandfather. Then, a talking cat named Tiger appears with an unusual request. The cat needs Rintaro to help him save books that have been imprisoned, destroyed, and unloved. What? So this book has already come out quite some time ago, and is quite a bestseller, and now is being translated into English, and I think, or maybe being re-released in English, but I just can't wait to read it. It sounds so interesting and so good, and yeah. And then at the end of September comes my most anticipated release of the year, which is Cloud Cuckoo Land by Anthony Doerr. And I don't need to know anything about this book. I don't need to know anything, but I know that it follows a life in present day, but also in Constantinople in the 17th century. I don't know. I don't want to know anything. I just want to just go in and just completely take in his prose because I can't wait. Another book that is coming out on the same day is a sequel of a book that I read last year and really enjoyed and have then recommended to people, and a lot of y'all have read it, and that one is the sequel of The Thursday Murder Club, and this one is called The Man Who Died Twice by Richard Osman, and I don't need to know anything about it. I just know that the same characters are going to be involved and I know that it's going to be fun. So yeah, I can't wait to read that one. And the last book of September, and I know we've reached 10 books, is Summer Suns by Lee Mandelo, and this is a book that has been shoved down my throat by my friend Sai, but Sai has some great taste and he's usually never wrong. So yeah, this one is about these two boys who were best friends, like childhood best friends, and one of them goes off to be in university, and then the other one goes to join him, but right before he joins him in university, this other guy dies, and is it's apparently suicide, but he thinks that it's much more. So it's a lot about grief, but also about murder, and I don't really know. I don't really want to know much more, but if you are more intrigued to know about these stories and all of that sort of stuff, I'm going to link all of the books that I've been discussing down in the description, so you can do that. The next book is, I am actually really excited about this one. It is Sankofa by Chinbundo Unuzo. I read her book, Welcome to Lagos, and I really liked the way that she wrote characters and just her writing in general. And this book, the premise sounds like What a Girl Wants, that book with Amanda Bynes and Colin Firth, but in Africa. So essentially it's about this British African girl who has grown up with her single mom, her single parent, who's her mom, and she doesn't know her father, but she realizes that her father is still alive, and he is actually a president or a king or something of a African country, and he might just be a dictator. So then she goes to try to figure out who he is and meet him and stuff like that, and I just think that that sounds really interesting and really cool, and I cannot wait to read it. It just sounds so fascinating and amazing. So there you have it. The next one is a novella called A Spindle Splintered. Spindle Splintered. I dare you to say it multiple times. Okay. Spindle Splintered is a novella by Alexie Horror, and this is essentially, you guessed it, a Sleeping Beauty retelling. It's about this girl in present day or something who has a disease, and she's said to not live more than the age of 21, and on her 21st birthday she gets pricked by a spindle, and she's taken to another world where she meets another person who's also going through the same thing. So this is a fantastical world where she goes into, and they try to save each other, and I just think that that sounds so interesting and really cool. So cannot wait. The next one is again a much awaited sequel, and that is Aristotle and Dante Dive into the Waters of the World. I read the first book, which is Discover the Secrets of the Universe, many moons ago, and I remember just really loving it. So I feel like I need to still go back to the first one, but also I'm really excited about the second one coming out. Okay, and then the next one is a horror book, and I know you're like, who are you, Smriti? But I don't know, it just sounds really interesting. So it's called Nothing But Blackened Teeth, and look at the cover. It's just, oh, but it's essentially a book that is steeped in Japanese folklore, and it says a mansion stands abandoned, its foundations resting on the bones of a bride and its walls packed with the remains of the girl sacrificed to keep her company. It's the perfect wedding venue for a group of thrill-seeking friends, but a night of food, drinks and games quickly spirals into a nightmare, for lurking in the shadow is the ghost bride with a black smile and a hungry heart, and she gets lonely down there in the dirt. Oh my god, just saying that out loud sent me chills down the spine. That just sounds so scary, and I am just such a scaredy cat, but I don't know, I'm just sort of like, I kind of want to read it. So yeah, the next book, please don't judge me for, but I like Mitch Albom. Like, I just think that his writing is really interesting and that he always has something weird and interesting to say, even though it's like philosophical and like, oh, but anyway, so this one is called The Stranger in the Lifeboat, and it is about these people who survived like a ship explosion, and on the third day they pull a man onto their boat, and the guy says that he is the Lord. And I don't know what happens after that, but I'm just interested to read it because I know that he'll spin some weird stuff, cool stuff into it, and I don't know. It'll give me some food for thought. You know what I mean? Alright, but the next book. I don't think I have been so simultaneously excited but also devastated by the release or the announcement of a release of a book, and that is Will by Will Smith, which is his memoir. And I love Will Smith so much. Like, I think that he is like the performer of my time. He's just such an amazing person. He's so cool. And I really, really like him. But he is writing this book with the help of Mark Manson. And I don't like Mark Manson. I just think, anyway, but I think I'm probably still gonna read this book because I love Will. So, yeah, there's that. We're on our last three now, but the next book that I want to talk to you about is also a sequel, and that is called Out of My Heart by Sharon M. Draper. So I read Out of My Mind by Sharon M. Draper, and I really, really enjoyed it. It's about this black girl with cerebral palsy and her going to school and wanting to live a normalish sort of life with everything that she has going on with her in her life. And I just really enjoyed the previous one, so I can't wait to see what happens in this next one. It's just basically 1 year after, so yeah, I can't wait. The next one is also a thriller called All of Her Secrets by Wanda M. Morris, and this is about a black attorney who is having an affair with her boss, but this boss gets murdered and she gets like a promotion to take his place, and then she realizes that things might not be what it seems, and I may not be describing this in the best way, but like, trust me, I just think that it sounds really interesting, and the author herself was an attorney or is an attorney, so I just can't wait to get that perspective as well. So yeah. And then the last book is called The Big Reveal by Jen Larson, and this comes out in December. But this is about Addie, who is a talented dancer, a true blue friend, fat, fierce, and driven. And what happens is that she's accepted into this amazing like dance school, which is extremely prestigious and awesome, but it also costs a lot of money, and she doesn't think that she can afford the tuition, so she decides to do this secret invite-only burlesque thing in order to raise funds for her to go, but then of course there's a lot of backlash and all of that sort of stuff, so it's about how she deals with that and what she discovers about herself, and I just think that it sounds so good. Like, we need some of this fat representation and people who can dance, and it just sounds so amazing and awesome, and I cannot wait to read it. And that is it. That is a wrap on my 25 books. So I hope that this list was good for you. If I have missed out on any books that you think that I will really enjoy, please do let me know down in the comments. I actually have a fuck ton of other books as well that I was sort of interested in, but I feel like these are my top 25 apart from the other 75 books, so 100 books in total. I mean, yeah. Anyway, that's all for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.